Welcome to the Fintech Scaling Show. This podcast is sponsored by Scale Up Consulting, helping fintech startups accelerate customer acquisition and set up business operations to scale systematically. When you're ready to grow, reach out to us at richard@scaleupconsulting.co. Now, over to the show with Richard Doty, founder and host. Hey, what's up, everyone? Today on the show, we have Henry Fudge, founder and CEO of 220. Hey, Henry, how's it going, mate?
Hey, Richard. Thank you very much for having me. Yep, everything's very good here. Enjoying the last bit of COVID. Fun times in the world of tech.
Yeah, cool. It's really great to have you on the show, as I said. And maybe to kick off the show, you could just give us a bit of background about yourself and your business you're in.
Sure thing. Myself, I'm the founder and owner of 220, stands for second to none. We're building the world's first digital private bank for a new generation of wealth. We're trying to take the oldest section of banking, which is catering to the most valuable part of the market. We're trying to bring it forward and update it for a new generation of wealth, making sure that the $24 trillion worth of global millennial wealth truly has a home that suits them. Digital first, low cost, competitive, and high quality. Simply, we're bringing a new wave of innovation to that market. For background on me, I was very shortly a wealth manager based in Switzerland, previously interested in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology. When I was in Switzerland, I was lucky enough to be just down the road from the founding fathers of Ethereum, huge innovators in the space there in the much well-known Crypto Valley. And of course, my personal passion has often slipped into some parts of my job with how the market was going with crypto 2018, 2017. With that, I came out and I started looking into how can I assist private wealth clients in looking into cryptocurrencies. That's where I founded my first business, Cryptonox. Great fun times there, working with high net worth clients on accessing the world of cryptocurrencies and early stage investments in firms in the space. Great market, great place to be. Then after that, we sold the business off the tail end of last year. From that, I've come home to start the world's first digital private bank with my best friend from high school.
Oh, awesome. Sounds like some interesting and great experiences. And maybe just to stay on that path for a second, I mean, you have, by listening to you, had a interesting path to becoming a founder, but what prompted you to set off on your own in the first instance?
For me, I think everyone has a fundamental understanding when you're working for someone that they're hiring you because it's profitable to do so. And when you're really in the trenches on the front line and you know how much you could be making for these providers, and you start to realize just what opportunities are there out there for you when you go it alone, I think it just comes down to an understanding that, well, 99% of the time you could probably look at least in your early 20s, taking that risk and seeing what part of that extra value you could capture, just have it more fair for yourself. For me as well, it was definitely personal passion. I found out about cryptocurrency in 2015 in a smoking area, for Christ's sake. But fun times to learn about it, get interested, get involved, and just pursue what I was interested in. It was just where the future was leading me, and I had to jump on it, especially at this age as well. It was just the perfect time for me to jump in. Some people, they often don't take these opportunities that are thrown at them. They don't take that risk. Right now, even now, I'm 24. So for me, it's not like there's any kind of downside pieces here. Most people at 24 are still getting out of university. So I'm happy to jump in and take the risk, go all out and see what we can make of ourselves. I think, if more people took that risk, maybe there'd be more fun stories out there.
And I hear you, but it sounds like part of taking that risk is also maybe finding something that you're passionate about. And at the age of 24, it seems like you've hit goldmine, you've hit on something. And maybe you can talk through that, how you went about finding that passion at such a young age.
I'll be honest, I've always been interested in looking out for, of course, client interest. But personally, I think those innovations and those massive leaps have always been great changes in terms of wealth and personal circumstances of private individuals throughout all of history. Say anything from the invention of the first factories, internet booms, everything in the 80s regarding the financial sector. There's always been those moments in history where there's been a pivotal change in the way that things are done. And there's always been someone who's been brave enough to jump on it. It's changed the way the world has worked. It's changed the world for them, definitely. And of course, it's brought the world forward. And I think I always have an interest in looking for those kind of things. It's just one of those things where there's not many people who work a job where they can go home after a 12-hour day and not just go, damn, I'm going to put the Xbox on and just be tired. As nice as it is, it's nice to have a job or be in an industry where you go home and you're still just interested in it. Say you're looking into, say, some of the podcasts like this one, of course, great podcasts, look into the news around it. It's something that captivates you. And I was lucky to find that in the world of crypto and finance, of course.
Awesome, man. How is that experience, being passionate about what you actually doing and delivering into the market, and also the other experiences that you've had over the years? How has that helped in your current adventure that you are now?
I'll be honest, I think I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time in the right sector of the market piece. I couldn't tell you, I'm like some golden boy, but I was very fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. Now, with that, where my passions were in a market that was really taking a massive uptrend, where investments into the sector were coming up massively, those giant private interest. I ever remembers the boom periods of around 2017, where it was in the news on a daily basis how good Bitcoin was doing, how many new projects were coming out. And it was something that was just exciting the entire world. And even today, still there's great projects coming out, say with the developments in DeFi again. The way that that's led to me doing this, honestly, I was put in the right place at the right time with the right people. And after a background, my personal one might not sound it, being Welsh, it's rare that you come across a world like Zurich that's quite so different, where there's quite so many people with quite so many assets who are doing quite so many interesting things. It was completely alien to, say, my home life, where the family's, upper, lower class. So that's the best definition. To be thrust into a world like that and to meet the people who can actually take these kind of ideas forward, where in Wales, it might be a ridiculous pipe dream for someone. Over there, the possibilities to take it forward, you can't resist it. You have to go forward with it. And it was very interesting to be there. But I met the right people at the right time, the right community, the right network. There's a huge, huge lump of entrepreneurial talent based in Zug, and obviously based on the nature of the canton as well. There is a colossal pool of capital to make those dreams reality as well, which is obviously just a boiling pot of good ideas. And we've seen a huge boom there, but it's the right place to be. And it's hard not to be passionate about it. It's honestly interesting news stories every single day, great people you get to meet, and a perfect network. It's been a blessing.
Hey, man, it sounds like you got a unique ecosystem that you're allowed to tap into. So I assume you use this to its full to test the idea and also maybe refine the idea of 220 as it came out and as it started developing and evolving.
Being in a pool of people that quite so influential and quite so forward thinking, you can see exactly where they believe the trends of the future are going to lie and the kind of things that consumers are pushing towards. So you can see these entrepreneurs trying to capture that value there. And with that, you also get this kind of consensus about where the future path is heading, just being between people who are trying to push it forward quite so hard to see where the money is going in, where the trends are going, where the revenue is picking up. And it's good to have almost that information being fed back to you through that network. And with that, also the amount of private wealth that's been generated in the last couple of years, in particular from millennials in entrepreneurial pursuits, is absolutely massive. And when you're on the ground there dealing with people who are not only forward thinkers, they're building great business ideas for the future, things like this, then you see the way that they interact with basic parts of their life, like, say, banking. Switzerland's an incredible place. The UK is an incredible place. Yet some of these guys who are working on the very future of all concepts of finance, say with DeFi as an example, or any parts of the blockchain ecosystem, you see them then when they've made a little bit, they come back and they always are complaining about dealing with old world infrastructure. We're talking about people who can send and receive billions frictionlessly in seconds through the technology that they innovate, and they're pushing it forwards. Yet when it comes to looking after their own finances, they're stuck with institutions that haven't fundamentally changed since the 14th century. You walk in and you meet a guy who's your banker who does it for you. Traditionally, it's not really changed in any significant capacity since Medici, Italy. And something like that, when you're dealing with people who are generating their wealth and pushing the world forward, you've got to go, well, what's the future of this then? Because there's that client demand. You can feel it. It's palpable. Those small complaints, those small irritations. And it was definitely a driving force for us to go forward.
Okay, so you've spoken about at the top of the show what you guys are looking to do. I mean, obviously, how you've tested the hypothesis in the market with your great ecosystem. Could you walk through, I mean, maybe to bring this to life for all our listeners, could you walk through sort of a simple case study that illustrates the tech and how it solves the millennial problem?
Absolutely. Okay, this is the funniest piece because a lot of people often with the innovations in the retail market, say with Revolut, Monzo, N26, great products in the ecosystem that look after 99% of people who are dealing with nominal amounts of money, aren't looking into making significant investments, and don't have usually unusual demands of their banking infrastructure or needs. Now, the problem is that when you deal with the higher net worth individuals in the world of private banking, they're dealing with a much older ecosystem. What you find is that people are often disappointed now that they're going from, say, using Revolut, they have a decent size exit, they do quite well for themselves, or they're just making substantial incomes out of nowhere. And they go, okay, well, finally, I need to start looking after my wealth. I need to start protecting myself. I need to start investing wisely. I need good counsel. And you see the institutions they interact with. And they go from using a digital first neobank that caters to the basics for normal people. When they start having those new demands, say for investment solutions, you find that they are being forced to meet in very old world offices with people who don't understand their businesses, who will charge them exorbitant fees, and they have to deal with it in an entirely traditional manner. And by traditional, I mean completely backwards. So, say as an example, when you're dealing with, say, £1,000 on Revolut, very simple, you can send it back and forth, no problems. It's okay for payments and solutions in normal banking. When it comes into, say, investment accounts, running mortgages on high value property, having just a simply nicer service that private banking was built to be, there's nothing out there for them. And they almost have a downgrade in the service quality when they're going to a market sector, private banking, which is supposed to be luxury. It's a complete juxtaposition to the way it should really be. For us, what we're looking to do then is to make sure that we have that client service there. The funniest example I have is probably from my co-founder, Sam, good friend of mine, 13 years now, which is terrifying. Took different paths in life. He went off to be an influencer. He's now a Facebook partner for live streaming, 200K fans there. A YouTuber with 1.2 mil subscribers on his main YouTube channel. Done some great stuff over the last 8 years in the world of content production. Now, the funny thing is that this guy, he's doing well for himself, and he did very well for himself at a young age. And when he went to go buy even his first house, and he was dealing with the bank, and he had to sit there with a mortgage advisor, and he goes, well, what do you actually do? He goes, well, I make content on YouTube. But the guy is pulling in a very, very, very good salary by all measures. Even in Switzerland, it was a good salary. And the guy is sitting there going, I just don't get what you do. He was rejected banking service from 2 separate institutions just because they didn't understand what he was doing, which I find hilarious. These banks aren't even dealing with the new way that people are accumulating wealth, let alone the way that they want to be served. And they're leaving so much business on the table, so much value, $24 trillion globally in millennial wealth. By 2040, millennials are going to be inheriting 68 trillion from baby boomers. And what these private banks are going to have to understand now is that by 2040, it's not going to have a one generational shift in demand. It's going to be 2. It's going to jump from 1960s era demands to 2020 era demands overnight, with new sources of wealth and new ways to interact with these clients and a new base level standard that they simply just don't meet. And that's what we need to provide. That's why when we started out, of course, we were catering to the world of successful entrepreneurs and influencers in a particular example, because of course the way that they earn their income is rather new, and they have a lower level of service compared to other partners in the ecosystem. And we stumbled onto this $24 trillion problem right now, which is that, well, no millennial is getting the service they want whatsoever. There's 2 things that they want. 51% of them by demand want ease of use, digital first. They want to make sure that they can check in on their phone how their balance is doing. Something as simple as that. The funniest thing is the Queen's own bankers, Coots, great institution, cool cards, perfect, great brand. But their online banking service for a bank that runs over 20 billion in deposits has 2.9 stars. There are Indian mobile games developed in 5 minutes that have a higher star rating than that. It's weak. On top of that, the last 49% of clients rated as their highest preference for what they want and how they choose a private bank wealth manager is then the fees. And the fees have been competitive and they're getting compressed to a degree. But with the massive legacy cost infrastructure that they have, the huge overstaffing that they have, the difficulties they have in updating their technology, the fee rates can't be really compressed anymore, and they're finding it very hard to compete. So still, even with us running in, even at the lowest scale of things, we can still find ways to undercut these guys by 56% on fees. Average private bank fees off the top, 1.1% on assets under management, then plus financial planning fees, then plus payment charges, then plus, you look at the fees of these private banks, a supposedly luxury service, and it looks like a Ryanair itinerary. Slowly getting weird charges out of nowhere, coming up going, what the hell is this? Why am I paying for that? What's coming up here? And it's slow and it's difficult. And it's just so simple to see that something needs to be done to make it better. And that's what we need to do. And that's what we're building.
Cool. I mean, you touched on quite a few things. Maybe I'll zoom into one, which, is age-old saying, we solve a customer's problem. And it seems like you guys are. But what services are you guys providing that, in a way, removes some of the headache or helps the millennial do what they need to do? You mentioned, obviously, sort of the phone side of things and also the fees, but is there anything else?
So for us, right off the top, we run 4 core lines, which is that we run core banking. So we have deposit taking solutions and card issuance. So of course you have your debit card with us. That is a metal card from us, finest cards in the market. Same manufacturer as the American Express Centurion card. So something really basic that we can do very easily and other people don't do is just make using the card a nice experience. Not very difficult, but a nice little touch. Nice add-on. We run deposit taking solutions in British pounds, Swiss francs, US dollars, and euros. We run across the European Union from launch, which is planned for Q1 2021. Now, with that, there's no additional fees in taking of the deposits. There's no payment fees, no other transfer fees either. We currently have no limit on ATM withdrawals either, as well, which is a sticking point for a number of neobanks. Of course, we're looking to be the most premium neobanking service you can get. So of course, that's a basic one for us to do. That's the core banking sorted. Second one is investment solutions. Investment solutions, we run a very simple solution here. In every investor in the world, there is a large focus these days on passives. It's a massive trend in the world of investment to make sure you can have low cost fees and you can always perform in line with the market. Because quite frankly, unless you're Warren Buffett, often you have a little bit of a slaughterhouse if you're picking the wrong ones, particularly in markets like these where everything's getting a little bit toppy. Obviously, to have a broad diversification is very useful. And its strategy has been utilized across the world of wealth management universally at this point. Now for us, we provide those investment services at hyper low cost. So we run at 50 basis points, 0.5%. So we undercut the cheapest, lowest private banking fees in the market by 56%. On that one, we're undercutting Nutmeg by 36%. They run at a base level of 0.75. Now, with that hyper competitive there, we also make it a lot easier. The idea of a private bank is that you have a professional, someone at your side who's looking after it for you. Half the service you're paying for is that you have someone who's taking care of it for you. And that's almost the ultimate luxury. I have a guy who handles that, even for my money. It's a very nice feeling to have. It's good to have the confidence of a professional institution behind you as well, making sure you're making those right decisions. Now, for us, of course, that seamless process that when you hand over to a private bank, when they're allocating funds for you, when they're making sure they're planning out the best ways for you, we're looking to pull that into the modern age. Of course, we run then within our own solution a service that handles it for you. Now, that includes our automated robo-advisor, which is integrated into our investment solution, which means that you are automatically allocated to a broad diversification based on your risk preferences, your needs as well, and your timelines and horizons, which is perfect. We also run roundup features as well. So you can be investing even when you're not even thinking about it. It's handled for you. Say in the case you go spend £2.70 on a latte, extra 30 pence goes into your investment portfolio if you choose to select that option. It means that no matter what, you can always be looking after your wealth in the back end. There's small little behavioral nudges that make sure people meet their financial goals over the long term, which is great. In the case of additional needs and requirements as well, above and beyond the world's passives, we have 2 features here which plug in. So we have internal providers as well. So not only will we be rolling out in extended timelines added investment solutions also in the world of alternates, but also we're looking to integrate a network of partners, an ecosystem plugged in by the back end. This is one of our more controversial points. We're making the world of private banking a lot less private. The reason why the market is very uncompetitive in terms of fees is that there's no major player that monopolizes the market, or there's no real harsh competition. There's a very atomized market. There's a lot of loyalty between the private banks, and it means they can charge rather hefty premiums. It also means they have very specific specializations. So certain banks, say as an example, might give you great rates of mercantile finance for shipping magnates in northern Germany, as an example. Very, very specific, siloed, multifamily office kind of solutions for a very specific person. Yet you might have another bank that might be focused specifically in the world of structured derivatives. They might run the best rates there. They might be very good at that. There might be some of the best stock pickers. You get a huge, huge diversification of the services in the world of private wealth. Now, for the ideal client, they would want access to all of them. For these private banks, they can't afford to really update themselves. They have a huge difficulty in innovating also. They don't want to innovate past their current client base. For us, we plug in a world of these external providers who have incredible siloed niche practices that are incredibly competitive, best in the market, and we plug them into our client base as an external provider to us. Now, we've already got our first partner on board there, which is pretty incredible. It's surprising that we've done it so soon. But we can open up the world of the most efficient solutions in private wealth through one core interface. It means that our focus then is looking after the client, making sure the experience is perfect, and giving a holistic solution that these guys can see everything in out. It's a financial hub for their entire life. They don't have to deal with 30 different providers, 30 different fee rates, and have no idea what's going on. A giant headache. It's all in one localized place. It means there's private banking solutions as well at the back end, that they can access our client audience, that they don't have to go into the world of investing and innovating and falling over often in providing a digital first solution. So for us, it's the best of both worlds, to connect the best of the old world to the needs of the new world in an efficient manner. That's the investment solutions. Back end, so we run concierge and client services. So we run a huge array of client benefits. Now we have 24-hour concierge in-house, handled by a great external provider for us. Now this allows our clients to put in even the most ridiculous demands, anything they need on the ground. Really some pretty great requests that we can deal with, including, say, arranging travel, assisting in hotel bookings, basic stuff like that, getting restaurant bookings, nice little stuff, nice little add-ons that we can just help out with. Now, this is a premium experience. We're dealing with the finest of the finest in the world of clients. The least we can do is make sure that we can help out their life in even the basic things like this. And the last piece we have then is client benefits. Client benefits, so we're looking to have rewards for our cardholders. So we will be trying to integrate now air miles as then part of our solution as well for spending. We'll then also be integrating a number of client benefits. Best one we have right now, the funnest one for me, is Hyperlife. Hyperlife are an incredible brand. I'm very lucky to find these guys. Based in London, it's a ride-hailing solution that focuses solely on supercars and exotics. So say in the case you find yourself in London, you're going for a rather schwazzy date, as it were, whatever the case may be, and you might want to arrive in something a little bit flash and put on a bit of a show. Fair enough, everyone can have their own choices. Say in the case you wanted to borrow or be delivered in a Lamborghini Aventador, absolutely welcome. That's Hyperlife. So we run free memberships with our partnership with Hyperlife, saving over £1,200 for clients and up to £50 worth of free ride credit as well. So I can literally put clients in a Lamborghini the first day they sign up. So I love that, just an added feature. These people have worked very hard their entire life. They've done great things in establishing the wealth they already have. The least I can do is make them enjoy that. Wealth is the ability to live a full life, and we're trying to put the full life back into wealth.
It's some pretty impressive stuff there. I mean, the one thing that comes to my head is your radical and disruption, both at the same time. I don't know exactly which one comes first. But with that, I guess there must be or have been some obstacles during this period of getting the product out there and all that stuff. So what's the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome, and how has this fueled your success?
I'll tell you one funny one and one real one. Funniest one is that we're starting up in Wales. I might not sound that Welsh, but I swear to God, I am very, very Welsh. Love a Welsh cake. Love the rugby. If you watch me in the rugby, I'll be shouting at the screen, then you know I'm Welsh. But the local ecosystem here is quite good. It's growing. robustly, but it's still nascent. It's just coming out. We've got a few great partners here that are doing quite well, but often there's a difficulty in arriving to investments in Wales. Outside of London in the UK, it's a very much ignored set of the market. Now, with that, there's also a great focus from the government itself, who wants to bring in these companies who are bringing in really high value jobs, really helping out the local environment and ecosystem, and massively benefiting the economy here, massively. Now, with that, there's huge support, say, from the Development Bank of Wales, the local government here, Business Wales. They do a lot of stuff for startups and early businesses, like most local regions do. Of course, the Development Bank of Wales is supposedly one of the more generous, great institutions out here. And we were very, very excited to go, look, we can see what we can do for our hometown. Both of us, the co-founders based in Cardiff, we want to bring something really big here, real jobs, not the customer service crap that a lot of people bring in, proper jobs in our local area. Nice thing to do. Now, we're dealing with these guys, and we've heard of some of the stuff they've done for some of the startups. So we go in, we have a meeting, we ask these guys, well, what do you guys do for startups? They go, well, we've got a lot of incentive packages. The Development Bank can back a certain number of startups. There's a lot of capital available. There's great loans. We're like, awesome, that sounds great. Sign us up. What can we do? Have a couple of meetings, go back and forth. And we go, okay, so what's available in Cardiff? Oh, nothing. What? No, nothing. The Cardiff, it's a developed region. We're trying to develop other regions. We go, right, okay. So where would we have to go to get any kind of development? Any kind of assistance from the government in building up, or directions to the right kind of contacts, things like that. It's great to have those relationships. You don't rely on it, but it's nice to have it. And they go, well, we have a great grant scheme available at the minute where we can back startups. There's a couple of 100,000 where they're putting it into a few startups to really get the local ecosystem going. Oh, that's awesome. That sounds great. Okay, what ecosystem would we have to be in as we move to, say, just outside of Cardiff, maybe in Penarth or Dinas Powys, little areas next to it where we both have good ties? Merthyr Tydfil, we're like, right, okay. For those not in the know, Merthyr Tydfil is also referred to rather generously as Mordor. It's an okay town, not to flag it off too much, but it does look a little bit like Mordor. There's literally a giant steel factory there. It blows a 10-meter plume of fire out the top of it. And if you imagine like a dystopian future, you're looking at a picture of Merthyr Tydfil, no offense. Well, some offense intended. But to run a private bank in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Merthyr Tydfil, just seems like it was quite funny. So often in our local area, the world of private banking is not very well known here. The world of private wealth is not a huge focus in Wales. It's not something that people know about much here or get. So often it's kind of like showing a dog a card trick. Find that quite often. Switzerland, everyone gets it. Immediately they go, yeah, it's good. London, they go, yeah, that's solid, especially with the fintech infrastructure there. Wales, though, it was like showing a dog a card trick. You just get a bewildered look, and it's like, what? It's like, okay, right, carry on then. But other difficulties, obviously, well, it's a funny one, supposedly.
It was very funny. I mean, wow. I had to put myself on mute, if I'm honest with you. That's because I was, having a bit of a giggle in the background.
Oh, the other difficulties, I think every startup in the world has been basically kicked in the nuts, for lack of a better term, by COVID. Every investor in the world, particularly at seed stage, looked at COVID and like, nope, that's it, game over. And they paused off investments for a 6-month period. So everyone was basically running on fumes, trying to survive through it, getting past it. The worst part of that is that for Switzerland, we were nominated by Bilan as one of the top 50 startups in the Swiss ecosystem to invest in for 2020. That was back in February. There's going to be this great event, huge amount of finance guys, huge amount of tech investors from across Germany, Switzerland, most of Europe, coming in focused on fintech, who knew exactly what we were doing with the right kind of capital to back us. This perfect. It was a perfect lineup. And there's an event to be held in, I believe it was Lausanne in Switzerland. Gorgeous place, lovely hotel. And it would have been a very lovely event. I get to put my glad rags on, be quite nice, sound quite smart for 5 minutes, hopefully, not drink all the wine, hopefully, and speak to exactly the right people that know what we're doing and can back us. And that is the exact week when the UK shut down for the COVID lockdown. So we're like, oh, God damn it. But don't get me wrong. I think everyone's been kicked in the nuts by COVID. But for us, we've been a decentralized team. It's one of those protections that the traditional infrastructure doesn't have. So I remember UBS were being kept open by bicycle messengers in Zurich because their lack of digitalization at the initial starts of the quarantine. I think they've picked it up now to Zoom meetings at best, but still, it's quite funny to watch the incumbents, even multi-trillion-dollar asset managers like that, suffer. For us, of course, it's been a good time for us to make sure we can get some work done, get the groundwork done. And of course, it's not that people aren't investing in any startup right now. It's just that it's very much needle in a haystack, find the right person for the right solution. As long as you put the effort in, you can find it. And we've done okay. We've come through it. And it's good to see that the market's opening back up again now.
Interesting stories, especially the Welsh one. Definitely like that.
Merthyr Tydfil, oh, jeez.
And listen, I mean, you guys obviously sound like a really great founding team, but what tactics have you used over the last sort of 12 to 18 months to sort of generate awareness of your product in the market? You obviously mentioned this ecosystem that you have. Is there anything else that you use? Any other tactics?
For us, we are a little bit close to chest. We like to keep a little bit of the privacy in the private bank. For us, the best way to find our clients is through network effects. So referrals are hugely beneficial for us in picking up initial traction, people who are interested in the idea. So for us, we go through our network quite exclusively. We do post quite a bit of stuff, say through LinkedIn as well. People want to check us out on there. But for us, we've picked up quite a natural piece of press so far, because I think it's just quite a funny story to see, well, like, for no pity intended, I've come out of the backwoods of Wales in a not exactly the world's nicest financial situations as a young kid or whatever. And I'm going to come into Switzerland to start a private bank at 24. It's just like, it's kind of just a bit of a meme almost. It's just like, how the hell do you do that? I don't know. I'm just giving it a go. It's going to work well.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, let's stay on that for a second. I mean, how are you guys doing that? Because I mean, it sounds like you both come from Wales. You had this ecosystem. You were in the wealth management space for a bit of time. Give us a bit of insight as to how you actually were selected to be one of the top 50 startups in sort of Switzerland. That's a great achievement, right?
Definitely, yeah. For us, obviously, it's a luck of being in the right area, reaching the right people with that. Some piece of targeted press. I think a lot of people have picked up on that just because it's an interesting story and it's an innovation that people haven't really tried yet, making sure we can take on the valuable sector of the market, which is private wealth. No one's really tried to disrupt it in 8th century. So it's a bit of an interesting story when you do get out there. For us as well, just make sure, no one's worried about us. Us as co-founders, yeah, we're definitely quite young here. Sam with a focus and specialization in marketing, reaching new audiences, having a great appeal, of course, in the influencer space. Myself, private wealth. Ironically, this is going to be a bit of a shocker to you, potentially, and some of your listeners. As a person with a CISI qualification, ironically, when we found this bank, well, this neobank, this deposit-taking institution, I will be the only neobank CEO with a regulated financial qualification, which I find quite funny. So whenever I feel a bit down about being 24, a young guy, it's quite funny just to go, well, I'm the only one who's qualified to do anything here.
I love it. I've had a number of folk on the show over the last few weeks, last few months. One of them was a snowboarder turned into a fintech CEO and is now doing some great stuff, working alongside big institutions such as Lloyd's TSB. I mean, it proves that you don't have to have all the qualifications to run a disrupting, radical fintech.
Yeah, definitely. But the lucky thing for us as well is that with the network I've also had in Switzerland, we've had some great guidance of incredible people come into the company and of course give us good mentorship. So some of our partnerships with say founders of the SCHB Bank of Switzerland as well, great friends of the project who of course have given a great guiding line on the way how to get banking working, particularly across Switzerland and the UK. Incredibly experienced guys, great ideas over there, and they've been very helpful. Of course as well, first board advisor as an example, Angela Knight, COO of Standard Chartered Bank for the UAE, formerly Hong Kong and Switzerland as well, working for Coops. Incredible experience from the traditional side of the market. Don't get me wrong, there's two young guns trying to lead the charge here, making sure we can kick the beehive, but don't get me wrong, there's a couple of bees that have come through as well. We've definitely got some good experience and guidance coming through on the project, particularly now CTO. CTO Frank is, for lack of any other definition, a wizard. The man is just incredible. What we've been able to do with what we've had so far has been pretty great. Guys come through from the world of cryptography, blockchain development as well. So great futures there. And the team that we've been able to build up as well, 13 of us at the minute, has been very lucky. Again, sometimes I come off a little bit arrogant. I'm not trying to, but I've been incredibly lucky just to meet the right people at the right time, particularly those who can and do support good projects and good innovations and help us to execute on the vision there. We've definitely been very lucky to find them. So don't get me wrong, it's a bit young at the top, but we've got a hell of a lot of solid leadership, a hell of a lot of good experience in the back end.
It sounds like a good team. And we're obviously still in the midst of COVID. People are trying to get back to some sort of normality. But as we move forward over the next sort of 6 to 12 months, what are your growth plans and how will you guys go about achieving this?
Well, for us, we're looking to launch out Q1 2021. Of course, we kicked that back a little bit based on COVID and how it's affecting the market, mainly, of course, due to just how the market's going to react. We want to see how customers are reacting, how they're changing their banking relationships. It's been a fundamental shift in a lot of people's lives. Of course, not only the cost of life, but say the cost of earnings dropping through the floor, and some people loss of employment, change in their financial outcomes from investments. So we want to see what long-term trends might be affected by this obviously short-term kick that has been COVID. So for us as well, launch then is looking to be Q1 2021. We've been building a strong pre-register so far. We've got a great set of people who we've already met who are looking to utilize the services from launch, which is obviously awesome. For us though, growth plans, ironically, this is going to sound weird, in the world of fintech, but I don't want 1 million customers, to be honest, straight off the bat. We are focused on catering to our clients fully. We're looking to grow very much within our limits and have over-the-top client service rather than taking off too much straight off the top. First year target, we're looking only for 10,000 clients across the UK and Switzerland as our first initial target. For us, very achievable. Current pre-register sits at 4,500, and we haven't even started actively marketing. We've had a good piece of press. We know some good people who've put our name out there, which has been great. We're looking forward to seeing what we can do when we come to a full launch. But I think, given the attractiveness of the proposition, it's tutor and trumpet, but it's not a difficult sell. From the world of a catered investor, we can save them a hell of a lot of money in terms of fees, make it a hell of a lot easier as well, making sure everything is visible within mobile application, just as a basic. There's no 2 weeks waiting for a meeting, having to go for coffee here and there, traveling into Zurich or London to meet your banker for a half-hour meeting to run through something. You can see it all in the palm of your hand, and that clarity is appealing. The fees are appealing, and we're trying our best now, of course, to make the general service and how much value can bring a client in terms of benefits, discounts, partnerships. And that's where we're really trying to drive it home as well. And we're hoping to do that. For us, it's not been a hugely difficult sell to make sure that people go, that's actually a pretty good idea. We're pretty confident now we could do that. Plus as well, having Sam on board and the network of influencers that we have on board so far has been great in terms of organic reach potential from the data launch. We've designed every part of this process to feel and look luxury, to make sure that it is an experience to be a client, that it opens up the doors, that it feels like you've been welcomed into the circle, that you get access to places that you couldn't go before, that you get benefits that other people don't get. And it simply just feels better. Even when it comes down to the card is designed and is gorgeous, but it's made of ceramic steel, absolutely gorgeous. It's just nice to use it. To be honest, you find yourself spending more on the bloody thing just because it's just quite so nice to whip out. There's an old joke I heard from a girl who was talking about neobanks. She's telling me that she doesn't really like Monzo because she knows that if she goes on a date and a guy pulls out a Monzo, she'd be paying for half of the drinks. And I'm just like, well, the aim of my game is to make sure that when the card comes out for me, that they never think about it.
Yeah, man. And okay, there we go. And tell me, there's listeners on the show that are, either going through the same thing that you guys went through 18 months ago, figuring out whether their product fits the market, or a bit further ahead and starting to launch their product and or scaling up. To all of those guys and girls, what would be your biggest tip for them?
I don't know, I'd probably just give them a Winston Churchill quote. Never, ever, ever surrender. I don't know, something like that. To be quite honest, I think a lot of times in starting any kind of business, there's huge difficulties. There's attrition. There's a lot of the conversation these days about the mental health of founders. And to be fair, it's even worse during COVID. I know a lot of people out there on the podcast be sitting at home, working away on a great vision. And it feels like a lonelier journey than even entrepreneurship usually is, to be on your own trying to do something. But quite frankly, there's often this feeling of an inertia when you try to get an idea started, particularly, amongst the younger in the audience, where you've just got to get the idea out there. You keep having rejections back and forth, and you just need to overcome that initial inertia. Eventually, all I can tell the listeners is that it gives way. Eventually, the inertia plays in your favor. Once it starts getting moving, once you put the weight behind it, once you get past that initial difficulty, you fight through the first walls, eventually the weight carries you. Eventually then you start to move with speed and you have that continuous push. After that, you can feel the acceleration. A lot of people just do end up giving up before they break through on it. A lot of people I know in the world of entrepreneurship, they'll have an idea, it's a solid idea, but they'll have 2 or 3 rejections on it, and they'll try and rewrite the whole thing. And it's like, well, no, you just speak to the wrong people. If the customers are looking at it, if the idea has generally been verified, just keep it moving. Just keep it moving. Keep on going. Have a little bit of self-belief.
And some sage advice there. And how can people find and connect with you and or your business?
Best one for us is 220.co or 220bank.com. Those websites for us, great. We can have the pre-registers up and available on there. Basic list of the services available so far. Apart from that, also LinkedIn is a great one for us. We drop a huge amount of news on there, or Twitter at 220bank on everything. More news coming out very soon.
Oh, awesome, mate. I really enjoyed the chat today and really looking forward to seeing you guys go from strength to strength over the next little while, and also the Q1 launch.
Well, Rich, thank you very much for having me on, at least.
Cool. Cheers, mate.